Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear students, we are studying the chapter The Rise of Nationalism in Europe. In the previous lecture, we studied the first part of the chapter, that is, the French Revolution and the Civil Code of 1804. Today, we are going to study the second part of the chapter, that is, the making of nationalism in Europe. So, dear students, let's start this part of the chapter with the definition of nation. Nation, as I already told you, it means is a state in which majority of its citizens have been sharing some things common like history, culture, society, polity, etc. This is called as collective belongingness. During mid-18th century, such things, that is collective belongingness, was missing in Europe. That is why it was very difficult to make nations out of Europe. The Habsburg Empire ruled over Austria-Hungary. Different people residing at different areas spoke different languages. In Alpine and Bohemia region, people spoke German. In Lombardy and Venetia, people spoke Italian. In Hungary, they spoke Magyar, and in Galicia, they spoke Polish. Thus, people didn't speak common language. As a result, they were not able to communicate easily. Other than language, there were different classes: the aristocrats, peasants, and middle class. Thus, such differences did not promote a sense of political unity. The only thing that was common among them was allegiance towards the common emperor. And the emperor was not worried about the people. Thus, due to such differences, it was not easy to unify Europe. Now let's study about the three classes of the European society. Basically, there were three classes in the mid-18th century in European society, like aristocracy, peasantry, and middle class. Now let's discuss these one by one. The first one is aristocracy. Aristocracy means the ruler's class. They lived a luxurious life. They owned estates in rural areas. They owned townhouses in towns. They spoke French, which was the common language among all the rich people. They were often connected by ties of marriage with each other's class. And overall, these people were numerically less in number. Now, the second class is peasantry. They were the ruled ones. This was the majority of the population who always worked hard but gained far lesser profits. They had to pay a lot of taxes and had no luxury in their life. The third one is middle class. Then emerged the most important class of the society in each and every country, that is the middle class. The middle class has played an important role in nation-making policy. Even in 9th class, we had studied the role of the thinkers in French Revolution. Middle class could also be termed as professionals. They are not that much rich to be put in aristocracy, but they are also not that much poor to be put in the group of peasantry. They are generally in between. They don't do labor or physical work, but they use their mind. That's why they are also termed as thinkers of the society. They are generally doctors, lawyers, teachers, writers, etc. Thus, they are the educated class of the society. Dear students, the middle class tried to achieve nationalism through three ways or three ideas. That is, the liberal nationalism, the new conservatism, the revolutionaries. So let's study the first idea of the middle class, that is the liberal nationalism. Liberalism stood for freedom for the individual and equality for all before the law. That means they want to make the society equal. They wanted to have an end of autocracy and clerical privilege. They wanted to continue with the kings, but simultaneously they wanted to put control over the powers of the kings. On the other hand, they wanted a representative parliament where people would elect their representative in spite of ministers of the kings. These representatives will frame the laws and they would rule on behalf of the people. They also wanted to have a constitution to check the power of the king. But dear students, there were some drawbacks of liberal nationalism, like equality before law did not stood for everyone. Right to vote was granted only to property-owning men. Women were also deprived of some rights. Dear students, in previous part, we studied guilds were abolished by Napoleon. In the same way, the liberal nationalists stood for the freedom of markets, that is, no monopoly. Now anyone can do trade anywhere in Europe. But this was a difficult task for liberal nationalists because each state in Europe possessed different currency and different boundary and different ways and measures. That means German Confederation was divided into 39 states of Napoleon. Then it was in 1834 the liberal nationalists came with an idea of Zollverein. They united all the 39 states of Germany, that was called as Prussia, and created an economic sphere termed as Zollverein. But overall, liberal nationalism was not a great success because they lost their own social status. They were talking about equality, but they themselves were not giving equality to the poor workers as well as the women. After liberal nationalism, the second idea we have to study is the new conservatism. In order to discuss the new conservatism, let us start the topic with the Treaty of Vienna, 1815. After the Battle of Waterloo, in which the combined forces of Europe had defeated Napoleon, the big question was that who are now going to rule on such areas that were previously ruled by Napoleon? The new conservativists and the conservativists had given their ideologies. So let's start with the idea of conservativists. Conservatism means an idea of conserving the prevailing things in past. For example, before Napoleon, Bourbon dynasty ruled over France. The first and second estate people used to enjoy their power, but once Napoleon came, he took away all the powers and privileges from these people. So, the conservativists wanted to continue the previous social order. They wanted king to retain his power and first and second estate people to retain their privileges. Similarly, the new conservativists also wanted to restore their previous social order, that is, absolute monarchy of Bourbon dynasty. But they were also interested in the reforms, that is, the civil codes formulated by Napoleon, because such changes made state developed and more powerful, and there were less chances of the revolt. So the Chancellor of Austria, Duke Metternich, came up with an idea and invited all the rulers at one place, that was Vienna. Here, Treaty of Vienna was signed in 1815. In this treaty, various laws were framed, like Bourbon dynasty was restored to power. A series of states called as buffer states were set up on the boundaries of France to prevent French expansion in future. The German Confederation of 39 states that had been set up by Napoleon was left untouched. Dear students, let us discuss the third idea of the middle class to achieve nationalism, that is, the revolutionaries. The revolutionaries means the one who revolt. This was the third type of idea prevailing in Europe, how to convert Europe into nations. The revolutionaries were totally against the monarchs. They wanted a republican government. They wanted to fight for liberty and freedom and creation of nation states. They wanted to revolt against the monarch and finally get the powers to pass under the hands of the common people. The greatest leader of the revolutionaries was Giuseppe Mazzini, born in Italy in 1807. He became a member of the secret society called as Carbonari, which means charcoal burners. When he was 24, he was sent into exile in 1831 for attempting a revolution in Liguria. After that, he founded two more underground societies. Underground societies means secret societies. One is Young Italy in Marseilles and another one Young Europe in Bern. Mazzini's patriotic ambition was to unify Italy into a single republic nation-state. Following the footsteps of Mazzini, many secret societies were set up in Germany, France, Switzerland, and Poland. So dear students, this was all for today. In the next lecture, we will study the next parts of the chapter, that is, the age of revolution and the making of Germany and Italy. Fi Amanillah.